Hello, everyone. Thank you for participating in this year's SBIR STTR Transition Program and tuning in to the Office of Naval Research SBIR Overview. I'm Lorianne Ponarakis, the ONR SBIR Program Manager, and I'll be covering some basics of ONR and best practices as you progress through your Phase 2 effort. So this year I've decided to put my closing slide first for those of you who won't listen to the end. I want to highlight some basic tips that will help us all during your Phase 2 award. Your program officer at ONR is key to the success of your technology and potential transition into the Navy. So while ONR may not be an acquisition organization, it isn't going to buy your technology or end product from this effort. ONR program officers are your connection to those acquisition programs. They are your transition agent. Stay engaged with them. They originated the topic and understand the need for your technology. Initiate frequent verbal communication as time allows. Be sure that you read and understand your contract. When you are 75% expended on your current obligated funding, let your program officer, contracting officer, and me know as soon as possible. It takes several weeks for us to get funding out to you. Also, do not let your contract expire if there is still funding that needs to be expended. Know the end date and request an NCE if possible. NCEs will be done in 6-month and 12-month increments, and you should be generous in the time you need, as we do not want to do multiple NCEs. If your contract ends and funding is still needed or you have funds to expend, there is nothing I can do to extend the contract and you will lose the funding. In most ONR contracts, there's a 6-month grace period to exercise an option, but that does not apply to adding increments or expending funds. I monitor the end dates and timing for your option and communicate with the program officers, but it is ultimately your responsibility. Okay, now back to the regularly scheduled programming. Established in 1946 and authorized under Public Law 588, the Office of Naval Research has been a pioneer in the public support of science and technology research that benefits both the naval services and the nation. ONR manages and funds basic and applied science and advanced technology development through the use of grants and contracts with an array of partners in academia, industry, and government in the United States and around the world. ONR conducts a broadly based, multidisciplinary program of scientific research and advanced technological development directed toward maritime applications of new and improved materials, techniques, equipment, systems, and ocean, atmospheric, and space sciences. ONR works in close cooperation with the Navy Systems Commands in their warfighting centers located across the United States. Scientific research is ONR's business. ONR is not a systems command like NAVAIR and NAVSEA and does not have acquisition funds to procure technology for naval platforms. This means that ONR may provide additional investment in your technology beyond your SBIR, but it will not buy the end product of your effort. Your technology will transition outside of ONR, either elsewhere in the Navy, the DoD, or in the private sector. ONR is part of the Naval Research Enterprise, which includes the Naval Research Lab, the Systems Commands, and the Warfare Centers. The SBIR topic you are working was developed based on a requirement from one of these SYSCOMs or Warfare Centers. Along the path to transition, as you further develop the technology or need testing, you will work with the technology stakeholders at a Warfare Center, a PEO, or another SYSCOM. ONR doesn't work in a vacuum. It partners with various DoD and non-DoD organizations to ensure the best science and technology is made available to the naval services. Examples include the Center for Naval Analysis, Applied Physics Laboratory, and, as mentioned, the various warfare centers. This is the general organization of ONR. At the department level, ONR investigates and supports technology research areas as outlined in the Naval Research and Development Framework, which you can find on the ONR website. From the development of sophisticated computer algorithms for aircraft and ship electronics to the fielding of lightweight armor for the Marine Corps, ONR's 5 science and technology departments, on the bottom of this slide, coordinate and execute the research investment priorities of the Navy. At ONR's heart is the program officer. Your program officer manages specific research efforts, but unique to ONR, a program officer can pursue an idea from discovery to deployment because they have access to all 3 phases of developmental funding: basic research 6.1, applied research 6.2, and advanced technology development 6.3. Knowing the department where your topic initiated and the broader research area your program officer supports can help you determine how your technology may fit into the larger picture. If you haven't already, take a look at the ONR website in each of these departments' S&T programs. There are many opportunities for additional research under ONR's broad agency announcement, and each department has listings in the BAA on the ONR website. As I mentioned before, ONR's focus is solely on scientific research and not acquisition. ONR only buys research in science and technology. The desire is that this early stage S&T will feed into a future naval capability or innovative naval prototype, and later into a naval platform. ONR topics support more risk-taking, but that also means there could be more options on how your technology can be used, particularly across the Navy and DoD. In addition to the Naval Research and Development Framework, ONR SBIR topics are also aligned to the National Defense Strategy, with a greater focus more recently on sustainment and readiness. The efforts of the NRE are driven by a national security strategy that is synthesized to the needs of a robust naval presence worldwide. At the bottom of this slide, there are examples of the guiding documents that steer the efforts of the NRE, always focusing on global naval dominance. The ONR SBIR annual budget is approximately $80 million, which funds about 80 Phase 1s and 30 Phase 2s per year from roughly 25 to 30 topics. ONR SBIR typically participates in the .1 and .2 BAAs every year, with STTR participating in the .A BAA. So here you are at Phase 2. The Phase 2 award structure varies by SYSCOM, but in general, the ONR Phase 2 base is $1 million with a Phase 2 option of $1 million. The Phase 2 option requires cost sharing or matching with funds that usually come from the program officer's core program dollars, but sometimes the funds come from other SYSCOMs or other services within the DoD, like the Army or Air Force. I work with your program officer to see what the plans are for the option and if they have identified funding. However, it is never too early to discuss plans for the option with your program officer, and I encourage you to do that as soon as possible. You may have heard the terms Phase 2.5, Phase 2 enhancement, sequential Phase 2, or subsequent Phase 2. There's so many different names for Phase 2s that I've lost track. Regardless of the name, another Phase 2 after the first Phase 2 is really just, wait for it, a second Phase 2. I don't know why we can't just call them second Phase 2s. Anyway, some projects come out of the Phase 2 effort with transition support from a Navy program, but still need more time and funding for development and testing. This is where we might resort to an additional Phase 2 award. ONR SBIR can only support a handful of second Phase 2s per year, so obtaining one through ONR should not be the primary means of further development. Additional awards are reviewed on a case-by-case basis, and the need is really driven by your program officer. The technology must be at a TRL 4, and cost-matching funds must be identified and readily available for obligation on the new contract. There are a variety of ways that a second Phase 2 can be structured, and it does not have to occur directly after the first Phase 2, particularly if matching funds are identified much later. The total amount of SBIR funding allowed for a Phase 2 is about $1.9 million, but there is no threshold on the amount of non-SBIR funds that can be put on contract. There are many stakeholders in the transition process: your TPOC or program officer, the acquisition sponsor, the systems command, the primes, just to name a few. But your focus is getting your technology out there and making money to continue doing what you do, and there are a lot of variables that go into this process. You need to be open to many avenues and investigate multiple paths of transition. Budgets change, which impacts priorities, so you'll need to be flexible. Think about what will happen if this Phase 2 doesn't work out. What will you do? How will this impact your overall business strategy? Or better, what if your technology is the best thing the Navy has ever seen? Are you prepared to scale up and meet the demand if you're successful? This STP program is a great way to assist you with finding alternate paths for your technology and helping you prepare for success. A Phase 3 discussion could go on for hours, but I want to cover one thing in particular. This is important because we find so many awards that should have been Phase 3s, and for whatever reason, it never happened during the contracting process. For example, if you submit a proposal under an ONR broad agency announcement, like I mentioned earlier in the presentation, not an SBIR BAA, but the ONR BAA, or in response to the Rapid Innovation Fund, or your proposal is an extension of your Phase 1 or 2 work, please make sure you identify this upfront in your proposal with the SBIR topic number and contract number. The award can and should be made a Phase 3 if the work derives from, extends, or completes the effort under a prior SBIR. We see this happen quite often, so make sure that anytime you bid on other work and it fits this definition, that you identify it in the proposal and discuss it with the contracting officer. If your program officer is interested in follow-on work after the Phase 2 with their program funds, they can easily make a sole source Phase 3 award to you. The Navy has a Phase 3 guidebook posted on navysbir.com, and I encourage you to take a look at this. Well, it definitely wouldn't be an SBIR presentation if I didn't talk about SBIR data rights. There will be another presentation on data rights as part of the STP, and if you aren't required to take it, you should. As a small business, you need to be knowledgeable and aware of the data rights laws so you can protect your technology and company. Make sure all of your documents under this award are Distro B and identify SBIR data rights. Wow, congratulations for making it this far, and thank you for tuning in. Feel free to reach out to me via email if you have any questions, and follow us on social media. Also, please make sure if you email me that you include your company name and contract number so that I can easily find your award. Thanks.